Hi everyone, as you know we are playing Bolton Wanderers on Monday and there's been a lot of controversy over it, a lot of controversy over Bolton and Bury this season. Obviously Bury were kicked out of the Football League and Bolton were given a last minute reprieve because they suddenly found this buyer from somewhere. They were 250 odd million in debt, or however much they were in debt. They suddenly found this miraculous buyer. They were allowed to buy 9 players on transfer deadline day, bring them in. I think they loaned money to do that as well, and they up until that point they've been playing with academy kids and they've been getting stuffed pretty much every week 5-0, and they were cancelling games and all that sort of stuff. And I just asked the question on the fan sites what you thought of the situation, and I got quite a few replies. The one I asked was, rivalries and history aside, what do you guys think about Bolton and this game? I think that the EFL was soft and have created a difficult situation that could pan out dreadfully as the season goes on. In my opinion, when both Bury and Bolton couldn't start the season, they should have been suspended for 1 year and relegated with no further points deduction for next season. Both teams should then have been given 1 year to sort their financial situations out, and if at the start of next season they still hadn't found a solution to start, then they should have been expelled then. To me, the situation is now very unfair. Clubs like Ipswich having an easy 3 points and a 5-0 win against kids, and now the rest of the league having to play a much stronger team. Maybe not. We don't know. We haven't played them yet on Monday, and I think that Blackpool will beat Bolton on Monday. I don't think Bolton will have had the time to. They've had no pre-season. They've got 9 new players. Have they all gelled? I don't know. But if we turn up playing the way we normally do, or we know we should really smash Bolton. So we'll see how that pans out on Monday. But anyway, I asked the question, so let's find out some of the answers. Henchman replied on A View from the Tower and said, for me, neither Bury or Bolton should have been allowed to start the season and given until the end of the transfer window to sort their finances out before possible expulsion. If either or both manage to be able to start the season, they should be excluded from this season's cup competitions, using them dates to slot the postponed matches in. So what do you think about that one? Tangerine Folk has posted, I agree with your opinion on the situation being a mess. If a 5-0 thrashing of Bolton's under-11s ends up defining a promotion-relegation position, then there will be outrage and possibly legal action by the clubs whom it impacts. DC thinks that's right as well. So what do you think about legal action? Is that going to happen? Are clubs going to take legal action over this? Dave Pick actually agrees with me, and he wrote to the EFL saying something very similar and never got a reply, which is pretty standard for the EFL, isn't it? I don't think the EFL are fit for purpose, actually. I think they're a disgrace. Eternal Optimist is saying something similar. If relegation and or promotion is decided on goal differences or indeed points they've gained from playing a bunch of academy players, then there has got to be legal challenges. So is he right? Is there going to be legal challenges at the end of the season on this? Of course, if Bolton were to lose every game and everybody beats them, then there will be no legal challenges. I mean, it all depends on whether Bolton get their act together or not, doesn't it? I mean, that's the thing. If we smash Bolton 6-0 or something, whatever, score 5-0 on Monday, then we won't be bothering quite as much as we would if we don't win this game. KC Sider just thinks they should have been kicked out along with Bury. Now this is interesting. Somebody called Poolco or Poolko as basically saying, look, it happens. Some teams are weak at the start of the season and strengthen, or vice versa, even in the transfer window era. The argument refinance is fine, but follow the rules on that. But you can't further penalise a club for having a poor side and later taking action to remedy the fact. It may be a frustration and annoyance, and it will certainly have benefited some clubs, but some of the teams we fielded early doors under Riga were a bit iffy too, as was the side we put out at Torquay when all the loan players went back. Well, do you agree with that? Post your thoughts in the comments below if you agree with Poolco that teams quite often start off, can be good at the start of the season, can be weak at the start of the season, can strengthen as the season goes on, can get worse as the season goes on. You can't, you can be playing teams when they're at the top of the league, playing teams when they're at the bottom of the league, and it can all change, and the whole thing kind of evens itself out over a season. So will this Bolton thing just even itself out over the season? Do you agree with him on that one? And somebody called PNE Nil posted, he says basically that all this whinging about Ipswich getting an easy win, etc. is pathetic. It's symptomatic of the times we live in that everything has to be analysed down to the last detail and talk about legal action being involved. It's happened. It's just one game, and if the fixture list had worked out different, I don't think anybody here would have been up in arms about us getting an easy 5-0 win. Now, do you agree with that? Do you think that we're analysing things under a microscope and we're always wanting to bring in some sort of legal action against things when things don't go our way? Are we being like that? Do you agree with PNE nil? I mean, Basil Robbie obviously doesn't. He says it's one of the most boneheaded posts he's ever read on A View from the Tower. So do you agree with Basil Robbie? Post your thoughts in the comments below. CNC reckons neither club should have been allowed to start the season. It's distorted and compromised the integrity of the competition. I don't think we've heard the end of this because I'm sure that League One clubs have been disadvantaged. Will be asking questions come the end of the season. So do you think those questions will be asked at the end of the season? Now, I asked PNE nil about my idea of suspending Bolton and Bury and relegating them for the year and making them start in League Two last year, and his answer to that was that he wouldn't give anybody a year out from anything because it sets a precedent that others will exploit when things get difficult. And that's just his opinion, even if it's a boneheaded one. Now, I still disagree with you, PNE nil. I don't think teams will exploit that because you would get relegated, and I don't think any team wants that. I don't think people would exploit those. I mean, if teams are in difficulty, financial difficulty, they would have no choice but to hopefully give themselves a year to sort things out. Right, Jane Gallagher replied on Fans Network, and she says if we or any other team miss out in the playoffs or automatic by a few points to a team that played them early in the season, how the hell can it be viewed as fair? The Red Room says that he thinks Bolton is still in trouble and it's all going to unravel in the next 18 months or so. And I tend to agree with you, Big Red Room. I don't think this, to me, there's something fishy about the whole thing with Bolton now. They've suddenly managed to come up with this new owners who are prepared to invest in a club that's 200 odd million in debt. It doesn't seem right to me, and I think it will pan out. I don't think it's over yet. He's also asked if anybody actually knows what's happening with the charges about Bolton not fulfilling fixtures, because they did. They didn't have the opening game. Then they were saying that it was hard on the kids, and they couldn't keep bringing them out, so they cancelled a few games, and that's unfair on the teams that had actually planned and were ready to play them then. And also, if they were ready to play them and they were playing really well, and then the game gets cancelled and they don't play, and then they play them 6 months down the line and they're not playing quite as well, then they would have an argument that they should have played them at that time when the game was on, when they were ready. So there's that sort of thing. Again, what are your thoughts on that? Post them in the comments below. Spud Gunn says he doesn't like to see any club go out of business because he's got back watching the grassroots football and he thinks it's hard on the fans and stuff. And I tend to agree with you on that. I think this whole thing is very unfair on fans. Fans never do anything wrong. They just support the club. And, if we were Bolton fans and Blackpool were going through this same situation, we'd be devastated as well, and we'd be jumping through hoops that we got somebody in at the last minute. Bury are obviously devastated, and it's not fair on the club. I mean, just talking about Bury, the EFL allowed the new owners to come in at Bury and take over, and they passed all the fit and proper persons tests, and they've absolutely destroyed Bury. So are the EFL are really to blame, and yet the EFL have kicked Bury out. So is that right? That's just another question. It's another question to put to you guys. So what do you think about that? Is that fair on Bury that the EFL allowed these owners to come in and they passed a fit and proper persons test, destroyed Bury, and now they've been kicked out of the league? Red Room again saying the problem with the EFL is it's a self-serving cartel run for and by the owners, and it won't change until there's an independent regulator. Do you agree with Red Room? Do you think the EFL needs an independent regulator? I think that would be a great thing, especially if they're kind of running their own club and running things down to the benefit of them, themselves. Spellchecker says it's not on at all, playing games with a youth team, cancelling other matches, signing players and eventually getting up to speed. It does make a mockery of League One. Do you think it does make a mockery of League One this season because of the way it's panned out and the way that the EFL have dealt with this situation? I asked the same question on Back Henry Street. Seasider says that he agrees. Teams that Bolton have played prior to the deadline day have gained an advantage. It questions the integrity of the EFL. So does it? Do you also think it questions the integrity of the EFL? He says both teams should have been suspended and relegated, agreeing with me. Not saying it's going to happen, but can you imagine if someone like Tranmere pip us to the playoff spot by a couple of goals? This would be a result of the game with Bolton. Would that be fair? Could that happen? That we get pipped to a playoff position by by goal difference because somebody beat Bolton 5-0. That could happen. Probably won't, but it could. Whitstable Tangerine said, I wonder if we'd be having this debate if we played them at the beginning of the season and beaten them 5-0. I very much doubt it. Well, we probably wouldn't, Whitstable Tangerine. We wouldn't. We'd be saying things like, as I posted on there, that it's not really down to us. We just fulfilled our fixture, and we just play what's in front of us. It was down to the EFL to sort it out, so it's not our problem. Lee's the Daddy has replied to that and said, of course we wouldn't, but other teams would be instead of us. The principle of the debate is exactly the same. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, what you think about it. Have you got any other different thoughts to those, to mine and those that I've mentioned now? I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts. Post them in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you're going to Bolton, I will see you there. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure, please do if you want to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, click the little bell and that will notify you of any new videos that we put out. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.